Makers, la mette in mezzo, bella tiro, gol! Luka Modric, ha segnato Luka, ecco il gol del maestro!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host Oli Fisher, joined once again by Anthony, the unrelenting Torgrud.
Unrelenting, that's a good one. I feel like a Game of Thrones character every time you do that. Like, I don't know, give me some fucking cool name. Yeah, just keep doing it. Start making some weird ones in there,
They're all improv. You can see the gears whirring as I just before I say it. Yeah,
there's a long pause there.
We've gone with unrelenting this time because you're always here. Maddie's not.
I am always here. It's crazy. Yeah. One of these days, I'm just gonna take a break. Just gonna enjoy my Monday mornings.
Well, we've got a break. We've got a break, which is nice. We've got an international break just to reset.
Still be here though.
Everything. And we need it after the game that we are going to talk about, the draw against Parma. It's the only game that we have to talk about in this particular episode because, as mentioned, international football is back. It's the final break of 2025, and we've got, if I'm going to put it nicely, a 4-goal thriller to dissect. But we feel a certain way about it. It's going to come out. But anyway, before we go into that game, I want to plug the Substack, as always, and thank you to all of our founding members. We've got a new one to add to the list. I'm enjoying adding these new guys to the list, reading names out, which is what I will do for new founding members. As mentioned, the existing founding members are scrolling along the bottom. Barry Vine. Welcome, Barry. He's been a long-time supporter of what we do, and he's upgraded, you might say, to become a founding member. So thank you, Barry. All the usual guys scrolling across the bottom there. We really appreciate the support on the Substack, which is our bonus content platform where you can find things such as, I've got the graphic to display this time, I forgot last week. The most recent pub chat that Lorenzo and Stefano sat down and recorded went out yesterday. We're recording this on Monday, so it went out on Sunday. Fairly simple, but as I give you a stupinian, we're going to talk about Purvis's performance in Parma. It's a lot of P's. He didn't cover himself in glory there. So they debate whether it was right to drop him, looking at what they both offer in the left wing back position. I think it's probably the player battle that's raging the most at the moment. And some people were surprised to see Batazagi drop out. But they went into that, looking at statistical aspects, how they both play, that kind of thing. Parma game, speaking of, Lorenzo sat down for an instant reaction straight after the full-time whistle. We're trying to get these out within 30 minutes of full-time. So if you like raw, uncut emotion, the hottest of hot takes, then, that's the place to go for it. Those are going down well so far. So, let us know if you're enjoying it, anything you'd like to see added on that front. But that was the instant reaction for the Parma game. The most recent bonus podcast that myself, yourself, and Madison, the elusive Detroit Darian Toth, we sat down. A lot of sitting down here. I don't know why I keep saying we sat down. We did a mailbag special, basically, because we'd neglected answering some podcast questions on the main one. We decided to, just go through them all. All kinds of topics covered from, dream signings in January, fixing the striker thing, to grilled cheese sandwiches. That's the range of stuff you get. Yeah.
And Madison had a makeover, so now he looks like the dad from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. So check that out. You can see it.
Or someone who we can't mention because they may or may not be disgraced. A famous porn star. We also said that he looked like. I think then they turned out to be fine. I could be wrong. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. And the most recent bonus article that Isaac did. I don't know if he sat down for this, but let's presume that he did. Naming rights for the new stadium coming up. Gazzetta did a full page thing on this, and Isaac beat them to it by 24 hours. So, we don't often get to toot our horn in terms of getting there first with things, but sort of going into how much Milan and Inter can expect to receive if they decide to sell the rights to their new stadium, which it looks like they're going to do. Some of the companies that are in the running, Isaac picked one out that Gazzetta then confirmed are in the running, and how it might work, because ultimately we've got to reach an agreement on it. It's not just our stadium, not just their stadium. We don't share all the same sponsors. So, just to look into how that process is going to work. You got a newsletter there too that covers a couple of the main topics, and there's a news bulletin in there as well. All right, then, let's do it. Let's talk about Parma. Rhymes with drama for a reason, I guess.
Yeah.
And there was... Look, we both predicted wins for this one, and with good reason. Parma really struggling. Went into this game 1 point above the bottom 3. They'd scored 5 goals in 10 league games all season. And I think we were both of the sentiment that if we get an early goal, then we can, settle things down, manage things better, control the tempo of the game, and really put an under pressure opponent to the sword. Things were going so well, and then we collapsed. That's my basic synopsis of the game. Agreed before we dive into individual incidents?
Yeah, I would say if we score a goal in the opening 15 minutes of a game, watch out, it's trouble. We haven't won any of those this year, so.
Yep, it's true.
Well, you know what? I take it back. Napoli. Salamaker scored, I think, in the third, and we won that. So, but if it's a shitty team, then we won't win it.
Yeah. I mean, look, as a general point, and I'm sure we'll speak more about this, but that's now 2 points from the 9 available against Cremonese, who we lost to 2-1 in the first game of the season at San Siro. Pisa, who we drew 2-2 with. That was one of those early goals, and we ended up getting pegged back. And then, same again. We drew 2-2 against Parma away from home, and those are 3 teams that you would think will probably be in the bottom third of the table. Perhaps even relegation contenders, or at least they were tipped to be before a ball was kicked this season. And it's not good enough. You can have a brilliant record in the 6-point games, but the fact remains that if you keep dropping points, like a lot of coaches say, and a lot of experts, whatever, say that Scudetti are won by being consistent against those lower ranking teams. And I think that's kind of the case. Inter don't have a great record against the teams around them so far this season. However, they are basically slapping everyone up in the bottom half, and that is why they're currently at the top of the table. Roma, we beat them. We showed that they are, far from anything to fear, really. And yet they're 2 points above us as well. Why? Because they've been more consistent in those games. It's a real kick in the balls, the teeth, whatever you want to say, to drop points in a game like this again, especially the circumstances that we found ourselves in after 30 minutes of the game. And that's why it leaves a really bitter taste, especially going into the break. But we'll start with the opening goal. This was a nice one. We are good at getting on the front foot in games. Mm-hmm. I would say almost every game, those first 5 minutes, I know it's only 5 minutes, but we are like putting teams against the ropes. And against Parma, we knew they were going to play a deep block, 5-man back line, which we saw throughout, and kind of a line of 3 or 4 in the midfield, depending. Can be hard to break down low blocks. We've historically had problems with it. But this season, we've been much better at getting that first goal, and it came from Alexis Salamakers. This was to be one of his 2 positive contributions of the night. But yeah, Nkunku lays it off to him. He dribbles in off the right side, gets it on his left foot, curls it bottom left corner. Kind of goes through a crowd, but Suzuki will probably want that one back. It didn't go right in the corner, and he was at full stretch and didn't really get near it. But yeah, it was a nice goal. It was a great start.
I think it could have been saved. Suzuki could have done better. In fact, as one of his bigger fans, everyone knows I think Suzuki's great. I think he had a really bad game, and probably could have saved both the goals we scored. But nonetheless, he didn't, and that's good. I will admit I didn't realize Nkunku had the assist on this, so good for him. I know it's not much of an assist, it was a pass in the middle of the pitch, but hey, sometimes that's what you need.
That race to 1 league goal contribution, he's now neck and neck with Santiago Jimenez, who also has 1 assist in the league. Ooh, baby.
Yeah. It was a good goal. That's about it, right?
It was a nice, I think one thing that we can say is that in the early part of the season, we seem to be really struggling with shots from range, and granted, a lot of them were from Fofana and players that you wouldn't really want in those positions. However, we seem to have developed a real knack now of scoring from distance. Atakame's goal, the equaliser against Pisa, Ricci's goal, the volley from 25 yards against Atalanta that took a bit of a deflection. And then, this one comes from, about 20 yards out. And nice precision strike. Keep it low and hope. That's all you can really do. Nestles in the bottom corner. By this point, our fans weren't cheering because the Curver had announced they were doing a first 15-minute protest. So that goal goes in and it's kind of muted celebration. They did a 15-minute protest because Parma charged, I believe, 45 euros for an away sector ticket. and they put them straight on general sale. Whereas for I don't know if it was the home game before or whatever, for Lecce they charged 20. So they're sort of saying there's discriminate pricing going on, and I think it's more of a general protest against Serie A because it's the only top league in Europe that doesn't have an away ticket cap. So like Juve charged our fans 65 or 70 euros, and it's just basically extortion. So I as someone who has been a match going fan and things like that, I am in solidarity with that. And the Parma fans were as well. They put up their ultras put up a big banner about kangaroos, poisonous snakes, and something. Syria selling its soul to Australia, sort of thing. So they joined in with our anti-Australia game protests, which I thought was pretty good. Again, the ultras tend to have a lot of mutual solidarity on that kind of thing. But yeah, they didn't get to cheer that goal in full. But they had one to cheer when, not too long after, Salamanca's draws a penalty. Now, I was kind of shouting at him in the 2 seconds before he gets chopped down for this one because I thought he'd completely overrun it. He goes on a nice little darting run, again in off the right side, nutmegs one defender, and there were 2 square options on. I believe it was Nkunku and Ricci both waiting to wrap their foot around it and potentially score there and then. But instead, he takes that touch out to the right and gets to the byline. Now, Ndiaye had an awful game, just absolutely awful. He was misplacing passes in the build-up, and then he sort of commits an unforced error here. Salamakis is dribbling it out, if anything, and he decides to make a silly challenge. The legs kind of get tangled together, and Salamakis goes down. Referee Marco Di Bello, who we got asked in the bonus pod about any referees that we respect, and I kind of said Di Bello seems like one of the ones who's all right, and I'm sort of standing by that after this game. I thought that was a nice penalty that we got, and yeah, Rafael Leao takes it. Bit of mind games with Suzuki, which I thought was interesting, given they're probably going to be teammates soon, the way that this is going. But Suzuki did the whole shoot to my right thing, and it was like Julio Cesar against Ibrahimovic in the derby about 15, I think it was 2011, saying, shoot this way. And he obliges, hits it so hard, though, that he doesn't get close to saving it. And then he stands and gives him a bit of verbals back. I love stuff like that. That's theatrics.
Yeah. It was a great penalty, too. He did the double step over thing, or not step over, but, the stutter step. It was just a rocket in the bottom corner there. Can't argue with it, Good penalty, 2 in a row for him. It's great. Yes. We need that. Yeah,
I've got the incident up here for those who are watching. This is the Ndiaye tackle on Salamanca's. It went to a VAR review. The referee Di Bello got called over to the monitor, and usually that means one thing. They're saying you've made a mistake. Have another look at this and see what you think. Thankfully, he remained with a backbone and said, "No, I'm happy with the decision there. I think that's a penalty." And he announced it to the stadium. There was a foul. Penalty kick remains. Good. Good. You need to see more of that, because I think that this is not a stonewaller for me. But I think when this is given, and the referee, as you can kind of see with the arrow there in the top frame, the referee has a decent-ish view at the dynamic that's going on there. But when it's given, that shouldn't be overturned, because there's enough knee on knee. There's a bit of a kick through the back of the leg. I think it was the right decision eventually.
Yeah, so I'm in quite a few different minds on this. So for me, like, obviously this played out in our favor, right? Like, we got the penalty, we scored 2-0 at the time. That's great. And it is a penalty. You can see the contact. Watching it live, I didn't think it was, and then they showed the replay, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a penalty. I do not think the on-field referee should be allowed to stick with his decision if the VAR says you made a mistake. Otherwise, what's the point of VAR? Well, if the video is assisting the referee, I get it, assist, not video dictated or whatever. But to me, you risk, and I think we've seen moments where the on-field referee will stick with their gut wrongfully when it comes to overturning a decision because of ego or pride or whatever it is, and you bring that into the game that shouldn't be. This should be objective, empirical. We reviewed it. We watched in slow motion, full motion from 8 different angles. You got this one wrong. It doesn't count. Go. That's how I think VAR should be used, and I think that's going to eliminate a lot of the issues with VAR that you hear from fans in different leagues and whatnot. But
can I just stop you there?
Sure.
All right. Yeah. No, I was just going to say that in your way that you would like VAR to work, that penalty wouldn't have stood.
Yes, correct.
Because he called him over, and he would have said, well, not even called him over, and he said, you got that wrong, that's no penalty. And we'd have all been looking at this replay going, what the fuck have they seen?
Yeah.
So I think in this case, it's worked out. But it's so rare. I mean, I'd love to know what the percentage is, but I bet it's less than 5% of occasions where a referee gets called over to the monitor and sticks with their decision.
It's very rare.
Yeah. But I thought it was a pen, and as you say, brilliantly taken penalty, puts it right in the corner. It was an Ibra-esque finish. From he always goes low and hard to the bottom left. Harry Kane sort of does the same as well. I think it's easier to hit it across your body because you can really get the power from the swivel and get the inside side net in. But yeah, it was a brilliant penalty, and we've got the game right in our grasp at this point. I keep stressing this, but they'd scored 0.5 goals per game on average up to this point. 5 in 10. They have 4 goal scorers all season. And I wonder what our odds would have been at this point in play. But we massive favourites to go on and see this out. But as Allegri said in his post-match conference, football's a funny game because one moment of madness can change everything. And I think that's kind of what happened. And I'm not even saying madness because of what Estupinian chose to do. I think also there's a bit of madness in the sense that Bernabeu scores the goal of his life. It's an absolutely brilliant finish, but it's just something that emerges from nothing. It's like a big bang within the game. We're so comfortable at this point. We're seeing it out, get to half-time 2-0 up. We can begin to think about managing minutes. Maybe you can get Modric off. Let's get Pulisic on, but we don't have to play him for that long. Get RLC out there to help see the game out. Maybe, I don't know, give Atakame a run out. You're starting to think about that kind of thing rather than it be a game reopened. And then, we see this. Estupinian is... first strange thing to me, as someone who played defender to a very, very shit level, admittedly. I was told never to jockey the ball out for a throw-in, generally, in your own third. If you try to jockey the ball out for a goal kick, that's a different thing because it's worth the risk there to get possession back. But in this case, he's trying to jockey it out for a throw-in in what would have still been a dangerous position. Does he have the room to kind of wrap his left boot around it and kick it up the touchline? Possibly, but he certainly can put it out of play, and allow everyone to reset and get into their position. And
he definitely could have kicked it out because he slowed down so much just to kind of shield it. Like you said, he's jockeying it out, but he didn't have to. He didn't have to slow down. He could have got to it. He could have even dribbled with it maybe, but I guess the idea is slow down play. It's added time, see the half out, but it reminds me to a lesser extent of last season when Emerson Royale was walking on the throw in and they just took it super quick and got around him, because it's like he just turns off. He just says, we're done. And they said, no, we're still planning to come back here. So they're in it. And I mean, he gets bodied off of this. It's embarrassing. And live, I thought it was a foul. It looked like he went through his back on the replay. And in the stills here, you could see very clearly a shoulder to shoulder, which makes it even worse because you can tell Estupinian saw it coming and decided, I'm just going to stand my ground, root to the spot, and you're not going to knock me off. He's fucking thrown like a child by a sumo wrestler, just tossed. I mean, it's bad. It's real bad.
It was like it was. And for those who were saying that it's a foul, it's 100% not. And I'll tell you why. When you are jockeying a ball out, I think that there's an acknowledgement that it's fair game to do so, as long as you are still sort of engaging the ball. So, you're sort of shielding the ball, but like in the right line, almost like, you're following the path of the ball, basically. As you can see from the stills here, and apologies if you're listening, Estupinian engages the shoulder barge by jumping to his right. So he's no longer at that point going to protect the ball. He's actually also trying to take out the man who is coming over to try and get the ball. So you've lost that advantage of it being, like a fair jockeying out, as I keep saying. If you're going to do that, you've got to win it. you've got to win that shoulder charge battle. Now, Britsky is a big fella. I actually thought he was quite good. He had a pretty interesting night. He might be one to watch for the future. But yeah, absolutely bodies him, as you say, sends him flying, picks up the ball. And I also think there's a secondary offence here, which is, look how much space Bernabe's in that tops thing. You can't afford to switch off like that, So the first offence is there. It's a Stupinian trying to do that, too far from the touchline, goes for the shoulder charge, gets it wrong, loses the physical battle. But someone needs to be on Bernabe there, because where's he going to do damage? Right in and around the edge of the box. It's an easy pass for Britsky, gets it onto his left foot. Brilliant shot, don't get me wrong. It kind of goes in the side of the goal that Maignan stood. And he didn't even dive for it. He just kind of watched it go into the top corner. So it's a little bit suspect, but I don't think he expects his goal to be under threat from that position within seconds. But it is the kind of mistake that does change a game. And for them to score the moment that they did, I said in our chat that I was worried, because generally a goal scored just before half-time completely changes the momentum of a game, no matter who's playing in it. And that proved to be the case. But yeah, this was just a shit show. And I wouldn't be surprised if Allegri gave him a right bollocking about this.
And that's what I thought too. I didn't think it was going to be that impactful because of the timing of it. Yeah, it's halftime, and it's like kind of a shock and awe moment. But then you get in the halftime team talk. I think that calms down the momentum in the Parma dressing room. And it's going to put a little extra fire on ours because, like you said, Allegri's going to be going in on him. My brain immediately says, make an example, take him off Bartosaghi on at halftime. Because A, he hasn't been good the entire game, to be honest with you. But now he made a mistake. Yeah. And B, Bartosaghi was great the entire time he was out. So I say bring on Bartosaghi immediately. Say, okay, this is what happens when you make dumb mistakes like that. You don't play. So we put in Bartosaghi, and he could start, the derby still at this point. And at that point, if you take him off at halftime, now I don't want him to start because we saw the rest of the game. But, you can still say, look, you made a mistake. You're out for this game. Try again next time. Do better. Here's your punishment. Here's how you learn. And I think knowing how we start every game, opening 5, 10, 15 minutes, I thought, yeah, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. We'll have it on lock. We may not score again in the opening 15 of the second half, but we'll be fine. We'll get it back. And that's exactly what did not happen. It just looked like
it was bad.
They were shell shocked still. I don't know how they didn't get over it.
Yeah. I'll do my one bit of what we say, like a good deed or whatever, and say that I was really impressed by Parma in the 15, 20 minutes after the break. For as much as we didn't help ourselves in terms of coughing up possession, in terms of inviting the pressure, again, that repeated problem that we saw when we came under the cosh against Atalanta of not having a proper out ball or just something to release the pressure, because Modric cannot do it on his own. We're starting to see that now. Mm-hmm. You have got to give a bit of credit to Parma, because I thought that the way that they played was exactly the kind of way that was going to cause problems for us. Allegri had identified in his pre-match press conference that we should be ready for a physical battle, because they play 2 up front. They try and get the ball wide and they load it into the box and they look for second balls if Pellegrino doesn't win it. And that's all they did really at the start of the second half, but you've still got to execute the plan. And I thought that they did it very, very well. They should have equalised before they did. They had a couple of big opportunities. Pellegrino hits the post with a header that, again, Maignan just stands and watches. I think he's surprised by, I think it was a long throw that did it, which was interesting because Carlos Cuesta, who is Parma's manager, was Arteta's assistant up until the summer. So to see them go set piece heavy perhaps wasn't much of a surprise. There was also this appeal. This was before the equaliser. There was this appeal for a penalty, a shot. And for Estupiñán, what I will say, he may have indirectly cost us a goal, but I think he saves us one with this sliding challenge at the far post, and Allegri did point that out. And it was his one bit of saving grace is that he switched on to this bit of danger. Cutrone tries to slide it across to Pellegrino at the far post. It would have been a tap-in had he not watched that runner. And it's not his runner, that's the number 9. It's someone else's man is that. But yet he gets there and he stops that being a goal. There was a double appeal, one saying that it hit Estupiñán's arm and then the ricochet onto Ricci's arm. You can't be giving that.
No, well, so for the Ricci one, I mean, this looks pretty egregious from the still image, but when you watch it, it hits his like upper thigh, like pelvis area, and bounces into his arm, which we know you don't give. The defensive handballs, especially ones inside the box, there's subjectivity. You have to think about it, use logic. Offensive handballs, you just always call because what's the worst thing that happens when you stop play, But when a penalty is on the line, you have to use some brain power and look at it realistically and say, okay, what happened here? Oh, it bounced off his stomach and hit his arm, especially the elbow. Like it's nothing. When it's this close together, when it's coming from ricochets, it's like this is never a handball. So this was Estupinian, a good play, and it probably was Pavlovic's man. As you can see, he's right there, and based on where he is in the field, number 9. So I would say it probably was his man that he lost. It doesn't look like he's speeding up there. So, I mean, good that we saved this one, right?
Yes, yeah. I think it was. I think this is one of the things about the system. Now, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say that I have doubts about the system. I still think it's the correct one to proceed with for now, especially while we're still shipping goals the way that we are, which kind of implies that it hasn't fixed things. But I think we're seeing enough progress in the big 6-point games to say that this is a system to build from, basically. But one of its detractions, I think, is that when you're playing 3 centre-backs against a team that maybe isn't known for being the most proficient in an attacking sense, so as I said, Parma, 5 goals in 10 games, you can almost sort of get confused by the assignments because it's 3 centre-backs on 2 strikers. Now, I think what we tried to do was have both Pavlovic and Gabbia on Pellegrino because he's so big and such a handful. And that kind of then leaves Di Vinta with Cotrone. Yeah. And I'd say collectively that in this spell in particular, leading up to the goal, they all lost their battles. And I don't think that you can't get results that way, I wouldn't even... I mean... Yes, there were moments where they switched off, and I think the equalising goal is a prime example of a collective fuck up. Basically, way too easy to get that crossing from the right side. How the hell is Del Prato, a right back, being allowed to get forward for a free header inside the box? It kind of again goes past a motionless Maignan, but I'm not going to say that he was ultimately responsible for the goal. But yeah, there was a lot of little things that went wrong there, but it was led up to by everyone in the defensive third losing their battles. And that's what gave Parma the hope that they could do something with this direct approach. And that's where it comes down to managing moments. You need experience on the pitch. I think we needed to be way more up for the battle than what we were. You can't let Pellegrino win every single header that comes into the box, and that was what was happening. And yeah, you need to be able to get the ball and play out and to offer something at the other end. And in this 20 minutes, I honestly thought it was just a matter of time before they scored, and then they did. And it was like, holy shit, we've got probably half an hour, including added time, to try and switch it on again and rescue this. And we nearly did. We nearly did.
That's the thing. I will say from the time, I'm looking for the momentum chart here. Yeah. So right after their second goal, we have all the momentum, the entirety of the game after that. And we had opportunities. A lot.
We did. We had big opportunities.
We just couldn't put one away. And it's so frustrating because the decision in the final moment was the worst part about it. I mean, obviously, okay, so here's something that I guess we got to talk about, and let us get the full thought out before you start typing hate and rage in the comments, please. I promise you guys it's not that big of a deal. Pulisic comes on. Leao has a great little pass to Pulisic in on goal. Fantastic pass. This is the link up we've been wanting. That's not it. That's Salamaker's.
That's the Salamaker's one, but yeah. Go on.
The Pulisic one, basically one-on-one with the keeper, goes wide, misses his shot entirely. That is, there you go. That's the one. It's not entirely one-on-one. There is a trailing defender, but he's in front of him. All right, goes wide. Or did he? I don't remember if it goes wide or it's saved.
Went wide right. Went wide right.
Now, you can't miss that shot, right? When you're a player of his caliber in a position of this, against a team, no disrespect, but like Parma, you can't miss that. You have to score it. Now, we give him grace because we gave Leao grace when he returned to Juve and missed 2 sitters in the final 10 minutes or whatever it was after missing a month, which he just did as well. So he does get grace for this. We're not hating on him. He's by no means a flop, but you have to call it out as something like this was an opportunity to win the game, and we squandered it. Now we had more opportunities, like the Salamaker still that you just tried to show. What the fuck? What is he doing there? You know,
I'll show that one. I mean, yeah. The thing about both of them is that I've noticed that Suzuki is basically already down on the floor for both of them. So Salamaker's
2 low goals already, so he's trying to stop.
Yeah. So the Pulisic one, I'm just going to display that again. So he's sort of about to fall over there, basically, like he's back. He looks like from that angle he's going for the right corner. Definitely go bottom right, because that's where the shooting lane seems to be. As you rightly say, he gets period of grace. He's got a lot of credit in the bank. He's been our best player, was our best player up until his injury so far this season. I'm encouraged by the fact that he got in this position, and I'm also encouraged by the fact that it was a lovely flick from Leao that set him up. I think we're seeing a little peak there of what could be. We haven't seen a lot of it, and this was going to be our front two going into the season. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come. And I think that 99 other times out of 100, he at least hits the target there, Pooley. So, yeah, I can't really hold it against him. It's just what a moment that would have been, to come on and score within minutes and a goal like that. I think then we're looking at winning 4 or 5-2. That's the way that the game swung back our way. But yeah,
and one of the things that makes Pulisic so consistent and so great is he doesn't look for the flashy, right? He's taking this as soon as there's an opening. Like that's why he's going that. Now, if he waits an extra touch, Suzuki's already going down. He could cut left and then go around him, and it's a surefire goal. Hindsight's 2020. The opportunity was there. He said, "I'm 1-on-1 with the keeper. He's already going down. I'm gonna take a shot." Right? Like I'm gonna shoot. I'm not going to try and do too much. And that's always how he is. He gets the ball, he's in on goal, takes a shot. Like you said, 9 times out of 10, it's a goal, and that's what's fantastic about him. You never have to worry about, a cross coming in, and instead of just tapping it in, you decide to jump in the air and hit it with a back heel little switch kick flick. That would be devastating if someone tried to do that in the 90th minute with the game on the line, right? That would have been really frustrating.
That was actually before his other big chance, wasn't it? I think.
No, it was after. It was after.
Was it after? Yeah, I mean,
it was like the 88th minute.
Yeah, that was a bad one. That was really bad. I mean, it was Gazzetta, and he said something along the lines of Salamaker's decided that he wanted to. It's something about like going for aesthetics only, basically, and that's kind of how it felt. He'd scored that goal, and he did this in the Napoli game as well, where he scores that goal, and then I think he's trying too hard to don't get me wrong, brilliant dribble as well to win the penalty. So that's 2 goal contributions for him, really. But then he gets overconfident, essentially, and he starts trying acrobatics. He starts trying neat flicks and stuff. When you get yourself 2-0 up, I know it was 2-2 in this case, but you get yourself 2-0 up, that's not the time to try it. That's the time to get back to basics and to just make sure that you see it out. By all means, get another goal going forward if the moment presents itself, but absolutely do not concede. Don't put your team under pressure. Don't waste chances by going for highlight reel shit. That's pathetic. It's the kind of thing that Leao's been berated for before. So, we've got to be consistent here and say that, he kind of went hero to villain a little bit, to be honest. He gets himself in this position here, as you can see. I mean, I can see why he's rounded the keeper. Yeah, because I think that's a you don't really want to be in a position where 1-on-1 you're having to finish it from 18 yards, from the edge of the box. But I still think when you look at that, you could say, he probably could go bottom right and Suzuki maybe doesn't get to it. But I think, he's wary of the defender that's coming to his right side, maybe thinks he can initiate a bit of contact. I don't know. But he hangs onto the ball and then he gets into this position. And I just don't understand how he's not hit the target from there. I think the actual moment that he hits the ball, it looks a lot different to this because that sliding man there, I don't know if it's Sorensen, he dives in and he almost takes the ball out from under him. But he can just pass that. The defender, might be Njai, is on the deck. He's not even looking at the ball at this point. He's falling over. Just side foot it into the bottom corner.
Yeah.
It is an open net,
Yeah.
effectively.
And I'm not even going to
Mental.
slate it like we see that Liao's right there, right? Like you can square it. I don't expect anyone to square when you are past the
You'd
keeper,
have to,
past the
you'd have
penalty
to
spot.
look.
Like, yeah, he doesn't even know he's
No.
there. So that's not an issue with me. My issue is when you go from the previous image, you see you're on the left side of the keeper to this image, you're on the right, and those other two guys who were behind you on the left are now in front of you. You took too long. You see the keeper's going down. You take one step, probably to the left, the opposite side of where the keeper just dove, away from the defender that's attached to you, towards the
Yeah.
two that are already behind you because they're behind you. And then you just have the tap in, like you said. But he took like a double, triple touch, waited around them. It was like he again just wanted to look what I could do. Watch me beat 4 people versus, oh, I have an open net. Let me score this goal. And that's the thing that kills me because the opportunity is right there. It's there. And when you won the penalty, you scored the opening goal, and it's now 2-2. This is a team you know that you can win against. You can score. You specifically, Alexis Salamakers, can score in this game. You saw it already. You've beaten this keeper already on this exact day. And you did it by just doing the simple thing. Finding space, taking the shot. And in this one, he found a lot more space and chose not to take the shot. He chose to wait and wait because he wanted the aesthetics. He wanted the spectacular, the special. He wanted goal of the week, whatever it was. And it just, you overdo it. And that's a very simple thing to do, is overdo it. You take one too many touches. He took probably 4 or 5 extra touches, and that's why we didn't score.
Yes. Yeah, very well summarized. It's a shame it's a game of phases was this one. Someone said, I can't remember who it was, it might have been Montalivo. It was someone who was in the studio. That this game's basically split into 3, where you've got us well on top and should have been out of sight at 2-0 up after half an hour. Then after an hour mark or just after, Parma are level and deservedly so. And if anything, we're so rocked that it's like, are we going to find a way to lose this? Just like we did last season, we lost at this ground. And then the final part of the game is where we really should have won 4-2, 5-2, big chances going missing. It's just everything that we're worried about with this team. There's some really obvious things to work on. I mean, there's 3 things above all. There's our record against the lesser sides in the division or the smaller clubs, whatever you want to call it. There's the fact that we seem to take a lead and we're not able to hold it. And then there's just our defensive record in these games. We're still conceding under a goal per game on average, but against Cremonese, Pisa and Parma, we've conceded 6 in 3 games. That's just, it defies logic because these are teams that cannot score against other teams. So I don't know what it is. So there's clearly been something in our armour that's been identified as a weakness, and other sides are doing a good job at exploiting it. But I think that there's plenty to work on over the break, and thankfully we're going to have some key players there like Pulisic and Rabiot. There's a lot jetting off, but those 2 we need to get. We need to get those 2 back towards 100% because of their importance. But there's a lot to work on ahead of the derby because Inter are on a roll. And
I also want to call out the substitutions. I think Allegri got a lot of them wrong. Loftus-Cheek on for Nkunku in the 60th minute. I'm not shocked that Loftus-Cheek came on. I'm shocked he came on for Nkunku. For me, you take off Fofana. Fofana was having a horrible game, one of the worst ones, I think, in Milan shirt for him. You took off Nkunku, who, while he wasn't doing a whole lot himself, he was on an assist. And yeah, you could say, okay, it's 2-1, whatever. You bring on the physical guy. But why take off one of your forwards? I know he hasn't been the most prolific. Keep him on there. You know that you have Pulisic, who's good for 15, 20 minutes. You're going to bring him on around the 70th. We knew that going into the game. I would have brought Loftus-Cheek on for Fofana, a guy who was giving away possession in the midfield, losing every ball he had, missing every tackle, losing every duel, dispossessed 9 times. I mean, that's the guy you take off when you want someone who's more physical and capable of moving the ball and holding the ball in the midfield. You bring on Loftus-Cheek for him. So not mad Loftus-Cheek came on, mad who he came on for. Then you move forward to the 70th minute. Pulisic on for Ricci. Don't get that either. Again, right man on, wrong man off. Why are we taking Ricci off, who was shown to have good possession, good ball winning skills, whatever it is? He was winning the balls back. And instead we gave Fofana a full 90. And this guy has been abysmal all game, if not all season, but specifically this game. I don't understand how he stayed on. I mean, you had 2 opportunities. You took off both the guys who were doing infinitely better than him for people that made sense, but you left on the guy who was the problem. Now, Bartazagi also comes on in the 70th minute for Estupinian. Good sub. No issues with that. Maybe I would have said do it earlier. But no issue with that. And I think Bartazagi, again, proved that he really is that guy. He's ready at 19. Phenomenal player. I really like Bartazagi. At the Kame on for Coney de Winter. I go back and forth. I don't hate this sub. It's fine. It does switch the formation, but it's fine. I understand it in the moment. You need to get forward a bit more, and it allowed Loftus-Cheek to basically be a striker while the other 2 forwards are now wingers again. You know, kind of switch it that way. So that's fine. I don't have an issue with it. But again, it's just the midfield substitutions were right in one way and wrong in a big way. And I think that wrong part could have been what cost us, because at no point after the first goal from Parma did Fofana benefit us. In fact, I would say he cost us every opportunity he got. And that's really frustrating to see a guy like that get 90 minutes. I'm not saying he's horrible and never should play again, banished from Milanello or anything like that. But as a top caliber coach like Allegri is, one of the best ever in Italy, you got to recognize when a guy's having a bad day and you got to stop the bleeding, right? It's not, let me give him the 90 minutes so that he could get it together and not lose confidence. The game's on the line. We're now 2-2. We have to win this, especially after the Parma game, after Cremonese game. I'm sorry, not after Parma, after Pisa, after Cremonese. You can't allow it again against Parma. You just can't. When you look at our record, 6 wins, 4 draws, 1 loss. Okay, 1 loss in the beginning of the game, or beginning of the season, first game. But then all of the draws have come in between now and the last international break. Well, right before it was Juve, right? So the Juve game, 0-0. That's not one that anyone's going to say, you know what, you fucked up. You should have done better. We could have done better. We missed a penalty and Leon missed some chances. But again, 0 against Juventus, not a bad result. But then every draw after that, the remaining 3 draws have all been this time period with Rabiot and Pulisic out. That tells you a lot about the midfield, right? So who is still in the midfield that is weaker? Oh, Fofana. Get him out of here.
I think a problem has kind of solved itself in a weird way. I think any selection dilemma that Allegri might have had going into the derby and, you know, the subsequent fixtures after that, because as we mentioned, once we get the derby out of the way, I think there's Lazio at home, which is a game that, with the chaos that never seems to, although they were on a decent run until they lost to Inter last night, to be fair to them. But Lazio at home is a fixture that on paper we should be looking to win, as are the rest of them up until the midway point of the season. You know, Inter is our hardest game by some distance until that midway point. We'll have played almost everyone that you expect to face expect to finish in the top 7 of the table. So that's a bonus, but obviously we're dropping these points against lesser sides. I think coming into the derby, the games that follow, any dilemma has been resolved. Like, you wait for Jashari to get to 100% and you back him to offer more than what Fofana does. Or you put Rabiot straight in and you keep Richie in the team. Or you even play Loftus-Cheek if you want someone with a bit of size and a bit of muscle in the middle of the park. Now, how long his body holds up for is a different thing. I think Fofana is really showing himself to be a middle third player. Like, in that middle third, he is fine. He will win duels. He'll do a lot of dirty work. He'll do a lot of running for Modric, which I think is important. And I think that's what Allegri sees and why he keeps putting him out there, is that it allows Modric to sit deeper and dictate play from a deeper role. But games are won and lost in the 2/3, you know, in the final and your defensive third, basically. That's where the incidents happen. And Fofana is a detriment to both of those. So he needs to be dropped. It's as simple as that. Get Rabiot back, hopefully at starting level fitness for the derby. That is a game where you need his experience, his leadership, his size, his presence, everything. Like, there's a bit of aura about Rabiot in big games. You know, we kind of see it already. And our record with him is better for obvious reasons. And then you see what the solution is from there on. Might we get to it being Rabiot, Modric, Jashari as the long-term trio? Possibly. But I think the long-term trio doesn't feature Fofana in it. And, this could be the player that he always has one, doesn't he, Allegri, that he's been fixated with at any club that he's been a part of, one that he'll seemingly play no matter what.
Rabiot.
And again, yeah, that's fine though, right? But I mean a player that he's fixated on that everyone's like, what does he see with this guy? Mm-hmm. He had a few at Juve, didn't he? At Padoin and stuff like that. But he needs to get away from this obsession and, play players that are at least, we can afford for that third midfielder to just be a 6 out of 10 every week, because Rabiot and Modric will make the difference. What we can't afford is for them to be every other week a 4 out of 10 and to make big errors. So yeah, I think we've seen the weak link. I think you're right. Looking ahead to the derby, we'll see what comes between now and then. It's a fortnight away nearly, so we can't make too many concrete predictions. But I think the improvements to that team for the derby are very obvious. You bring Tomori in at right centre back. He's been head and shoulders above De Winter for me this season, who I'm not giving up on, but I think he's been rusty in his start so far. Bartazagi comes in at left wing back. My only hesitation with that would be that he'll feel the game a lot. He'll feel the emotion of a game like that, and it can sometimes be a bit of a detriment, when you're too emotionally invested in a game. Remember when he came on for his debut? It might not have been his debut, but he came on off the bench in that Lecce game, Bartazagi, and got a straight red for jumping in 2-footed on someone. So, he does have form for sort of not keeping things in check. So that would be my only hesitation, but I'd still play him over to Stupinian, who makes errors that can lead to goals. And then the front two, we know is going to be Leao and Pulisic. And then, you drop Rabiot into the midfield. So I think there are potentially 4 changes coming for that team for the derby, and we will need them.
The other thing that I do want to point out as a positive about this season under Allegri is we are entering the November break, which means we're about to enter December, because there'll be one game in November at this point left. The Derby, 12 games played, or will be 12 games after the Derby. And we have 0 suspensions. 0 players have been yellow card acclamation, red cards, and that never happens. Now, Fofana is on 3 already this year. So he's close to being at that level. And he definitely is, the pick for my money on who will be the first to get it. But that's pretty good. When you look at the amount of yellow cards we have right now, it's pretty minimal. Everyone got one random one here and there. One of them is Alex Jimenez, which is kind of funny because he's gone. But it's not bad. Modric has 2, and we know the one he got in this game against Parma was cynical. It was intentional, and that's an experienced play to do that. It was like, look, this guy's on a break. I'm grabbing him. You're on one yellow card the whole season. You could afford another one. And that was my concern. I didn't know where we were at the start of the Parma game, if we were close, like 1 away for anyone. And, to see that we're at the end of this game going into the 12th match of the season and our most carded player is on 3 is pretty impressive for me.
Yeah, I would trade an extra win for a couple of extra yellow cards, but that's not how it works, obviously. I don't think it symbolises anything like a lack of a great... It has been pointed out. There was a report, and I can't remember which paper did it, about our disciplinary record, and it sort of ties in with that stat that Allegri got asked about our pressing and having... I don't know if you're familiar with the PPDA metric, but it's like how many passes another team does before it gets disrupted, basically. So a lower number is better. It means they can't string anything together. And ours is actually the highest, as in we're the lowest pressing team, basically, in Serie A. And it's sort of been used as a stick to beat us with, in terms of it being a pretty timid approach and sitting deep and soaking up pressure and everything. First of all, what to expect from an Allegri team. Second of all, our defence has improved an awful lot. Regardless of what we just talked about with this game being a frustration, we're still on course to concede the target set, which I think was 30 goals for the season, which is remarkable considering everything, and the goals that we shouldn't have let in this season. But it's just, that's the way it's going to be. It's going to be attritional, but I don't think any of it matters. Like with the yellow card thing, it's sometimes just needless ill discipline and things like that. Right. So I don't see a lack of aggression as being particularly problematic. The overall point is that none of all of that matters if you're going to make fuck-ups in your own third. If you're going to have those... I mean, Bidet said it well in our chat about how, you can be as solid as you want for 89 minutes of a game. But if you've got a couple of players in your team that are capable of making errors leading to goals, you will not get very far. And we still do. We still have those players, unfortunately. Stats. Quick look at stats. We had more of the ball, 57%. XG suggests 2-2 was about the right result. And of course, a large bulk of that XG for us was the penalty that was converted. It makes you wonder what those one-on-ones were. Why they
that
weren't
is interesting.
Or maybe that was it. And
I wonder,
goal was a low
who do we use for when we pull these stats? SofaScore?
Or FOTMob, one of those two.
Yeah, I'm going to check FOTMob and just see if that's...
3 big chances to 2 in our favour. They had 14 shots to our 9. I think, when Parma is such an offensively deficient team, are quite comfortably out shooting you, that's a little bit of a problem, and that testifies to that 20 minutes where everything went to shit. 5 shots on target to 4 in our favour, though. They had more corners, 4-3.
So I don't know how FOTMob does it, but they gave us 1.95 and Parma 1.88. So they upped Parma's, reduced ours, but then they gave us an additional big chance. So I don't understand how that happens. How we get more big chances, less XG. I don't know.
So I think obviously the Salamanca's goal, the opener, because it's a 20-yard shot, will ultimately be low XG and not a big chance. So 1 big chance will be the penalty, and then 2 will be the one-on-ones, most likely. So that's how you get to that, and that's where you're like, maybe we should have won 3-2, but the XG says that 2-2 is fair. So, don't know. Whatever. Very, very frustrating. Now we've got 2 weeks to stew over that. Let's hope that Allegri makes some improvements on the training ground. We just got a couple of questions to answer. I did say we'd do them, so let's do them. Nate Stocker asks, what's the reason for Milan's perpetual issue with struggling against smaller sides? It does seem to persist through coaching changes and squad rebuilds, so I really can't see the reason.
Well, a lot of that could always be mentality, right? But for me specifically with this season, I think a lot of it comes down to the type of formation we play, the game plan under Allegri. I think a 3-5-2, and the way we play is effective against the big teams because the big teams try to win every game. So they're going to come forward. They're going to press. As we just said, we are the least pressing team in the league. We allow the other team to have the ball, and against big teams, they're going to have the ball. They're going to pass a lot. They're going to make a mistake, and then we're going to counter, and we're going to score. And that's how we play. The small teams are doing what we're doing to us, but the problem is we don't press. So we're allowing them to have the bulk of the ball, which means the only team that gets to counter is them because we will be the ones make them. I'm sorry, we have the bulk of the ball versus the other team, which is what we normally do. So when we have the bulk of the ball, we're the team that's going to make the mistake, which means they're the team that's going to counter. And that's why we only concede from a mistake. It's never someone dribbled the whole field coast to coast like when we get crazy goals, right? That doesn't happen against us, which is a good thing and a bad thing because it means we're making those individual mistakes, which to Bader's point, you could only disguise it for so long if you have 3 players in your defense or midfield or whatever that are prone to individual errors leading to goals. And that's why I think the smaller teams can actually perform well against us. Now, historically, we haven't played this formation, so it could be all kinds of things, right? But I think, I don't know. But yeah, I
find it a little bit lazy that people jump to it's such an obvious mentality issue and those kind of things because I just don't think it's that. I think it's I think you can strip it down to a nuts and bolts thing, which is like style of football that we're facing, basically. So you look at a game like the Roma game, for example, where we're under an awful lot of pressure, but we've almost accepted that we're going to ride out that period of pressure and then wait for our moment at the other end. We seem to be quite comfortable defensively, despite letting them have a lot of the ball and sort of putting us under siege a little bit. Because the play was all happening in front of us, we tend to struggle against opponents who are more direct because they know that the way that they're going to have the best chance of scoring against teams that are vastly superior to them on paper in terms of quality is to be direct, is to get it into the forward and hope for things to happen. The moment that we get spun around and wingers get past us to put crosses in and centre-backs have to look over their shoulder for a man because everything's happening the other side of the ball rather than play... Like, there are some defenders, we've had plenty of centre-backs who... I think Romagnoli is a great example of this. absolutely fine as long as he can see everything happening in front of him. The moment you get spun around, all goes to shit. And I feel like that's our defensive unit in a nutshell. The moment a team goes a bit more direct, a bit more pragmatic, bangs it into the forwards, uses wide play, I think we struggle. And that is something to work on, because when you've got 3 centre backs in the box who should have aerial command, they should be, physically fine for battles like that. The way that we defended in those 15-20 minutes after the halftime break were a team that you'd think it was the other way around. You think Parma were the team going to be top, and so I think there's a stylistic thing. I think we need to figure out a way to stand up a bit more against teams that will look to bully us physically. And then there is things like careless mistakes that need to be cut out, but they need to be cut out of every game. We ended up beating the champions Napoli when Estupiñán made a careless mistake that led to a red card. So, these mistakes can happen, but we can ride them out and still win games. Sometimes games of football, especially in Italy, are not who outplays the other team, it's who makes the least mistakes. And if we are going to make the most mistakes in games, we're going to leave the result wide open, against whatever opponent. And that proved to be the case. But it is frustrating. It's something that needs to change because, as mentioned, Scudetti tend to be won by the teams that hoover up the most points against, bottom 12, bottom 10 teams. Daniel Ahmed, if you had to choose between Emerson Royale or Estupiñán, who would you choose?
Oh, the electric chair.
It's definitely Estupiñán. I'm sorry, but I mean, look, I know it's currently trendy and a bit humorous to bash Estupiñán because he's come back from an injury and he's been shoved off the ball, leading to a goal that has then reopened the game. But as mentioned, he also made a decisive intervention in this particular game, and I'm not here to defend him. I'm not his agent or anything, but let's not act as if Estupiñán has had anything like the disaster that Emerson Royale has had. Yeah. And Emerson Royale did it in the derby.
Opposite sides of the pitch, opposite sides of the field as well. So there's that. Can't really pick one or the other, but Estupiñán is the better player.
Yeah, I think Bartizaghi, as we mentioned, Bartizaghi just needs to come in for a little bit.
Truth.
I mean, Estupiñán has kind of had the last couple of years spent either injured or being a deputy at Brighton. So maybe just isn't fully in tune in that sense. But no excuses either. He's paid to do a job for us, and to this point, he probably hasn't done it to a satisfactory level. Il Mister asks on Twitter, with Pulisic back, do you think it's time for Max to change to a 3-4-3 starting from the Lazio game, given that he won't do it for a derby? I think he should do it, especially against the lesser sides.
That's your answer, or was that a part of the question?
Sorry, that was part of the question, yeah.
Okay.
That was his...
I don't think you make the change. I think you stick to the 3-5-2. It's gotten us this far. Keep it. Against the lesser sides, I could see, a bit of a formation change. Like we just said, that we struggle against them because we're not as forward pressing. But I don't know if a 3-4-3 is going to change that. If anything, that makes the midfield kind of easier to get through in a way, because you're really working with a double pivot more so than an actual wall. Plus, they're now so accustomed to, in possession, one of them drops back and becomes another defender anyways. So I guess in that sense, actually, we already are doing the double pivot. So maybe it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But
we are doing it. And there's a really interesting snapshot that I saw on Instagram. I'd have to go back and find it, but sort of showing how weird our shape can be in build-up at times. So like Modric almost playing as a left centre-back, basically, and then the other centre-back splitting, one moving round, and then the other side is centre-back pushing up, and then the wing-back becoming a winger. Like, we almost kind of rotate on an axis type thing, and Modric is always the one ready to receive the ball as like a bracket almost and push it around. But anyway, it's not going to be a 3-4-3 anytime soon, I don't think. And I'll just reiterate what we said sort of coming into the season. We can't play 3 forwards. We only have 4, and one of them's out injured at the moment in Jimenez. We can't do it. We can't only have the option to change one of our 3. I might change my mind if come January we've signed another striker and nobody's left. Then we've got actual centre forwards and actual wingers that we can put around them. But now, at the moment, we can't do it. We don't have the depth.
if we did it, I don't think it would be a 3-4-3. I think it would be a 4-3-3, and we would use Salamakers off the bench as that relief for Pulisic. In my mind,
Yeah, that's possibly true. Yeah, or Salamakers right back, and then no, because that's still the same problem. I mean,
would rotate to right back.
Yeah, I mean, there's not even really any of the kids that you say could come up and lend a hand. We've seen a bit of Valenciennes, but to get to a position where he needs to come off the bench to provide relief for some of the forwards is not good. You know, we are stuck with playing two up front. I think that's where we're at, unless you can do something a bit weird where you play with an attacking midfielder and it's RLC. But I think you're sort of reinventing the wheel a bit there. I think the system's fine. I think we've got the numbers to play the system at the moment in terms of the starting 11. I've still got big question marks about our depth, and they're being shown week by week. But we're finally getting towards the position of having a fully fit squad again, which we haven't done for a long time. So I think we see where we're at with that. You know, I think we've got a lot of players that have played their best football in years for us in a 3-5-2. So I think we stick with that. And we need to give Pulisic our run of games as the front two, because there has to be something there. They're both too talented for it not to work, in my opinion. And it's not like Nkunku and Jimenez have been braying the door down to start in the opportunities that they've had. So I think we stick with the 3-5-2, but appreciate the sentiment of the question. We're past an hour, so I'll wrap it up there. We're back later this week with another bonus episode, topic to be decided. But yeah, in the meantime, I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher and at Kilpin Chronicle, which is now unpermabanned. That was a brief moment when I tried to fire out a tweet and they were like, your account's permanently suspended. Didn't give a reason for it, so I just submitted an appeal and I said in the comment thing, think you've got it wrong. And then, like, within 24 hours, it had been unblocked. So I don't know how it came about, but that's Twitter at the moment. Cheers.
Yep, I'll be here till the day I die, but not over the holidays. Don't expect me on Christmas.
Yeah, we're not doing that. But yeah, in the meantime, have a fantastic week, everyone.